Please subscribe and share for more story. The sound was sharp and flat, like a thin book snapping shut. It echoed through the cinnamon-scented living room and seemed to suspend time itself. For one long second, nothing moved except a small gold hoop earring spinning through the air before landing softly on the patterned rug. The sting bloomed across Helena Moore's cheek, hot and humiliating. She stood frozen, disbelief pressing down on her chest. Helena was 68 years old. She had raised a child alone, buried a husband, faced banks, bosses, and grief with quiet strength. And yet, here she was, struck by a child in the home she helped build. Until that moment, people had called her patient. She smoothed tablecloths, softened arguments, absorbed everyone else's discomfort, so peace could exist. That was why the slap felt less like an accident and more like a verdict. Across the small table sat her grandson, Leo, his 9-year-old face tight with frustration over a checkerboard. "Grandma, you're cheating," he said with a laugh. Helena smiled gently. "I don't think I am, sweetheart," she replied, reaching for her piece. His hand moved faster. Open palm. Deliberate. The room tilted. Something old and quiet inside her cracked. The smell of apple crisp Helena had baked that morning suddenly felt too sweet, too heavy. Her son, Daniel, looked up from his phone with mild amusement flickering across his face. At 43, he still relied on her for pressed shirts and emotional reassurance. "He's just being a boy, Mom," Daniel said lightly, already dismissing the moment. His wife, Miranda, didn't even glance up from her laptop. Her fingers clicked rapidly as she scrolled through luxury shoes. "Oh, please, Helena," she sighed. "Don't be dramatic. He barely touched you." Leo watched closely, eyes wide, not afraid but curious.
He was testing something.
In the silence of his parents, he was learning there were no consequences. The grandfather clock in the hallway ticked loudly, inherited from Helena's own mother, marking each second with judgment. Her throat tightened, but no words came. She bent slowly to retrieve her earring, her hand trembling just enough to notice. "It's all right," she heard herself say. The words sounded thin and unfamiliar. Daniel shrugged, already back to his screen. Miranda sighed in irritation. Leo hummed and moved his piece. For them, the moment ended. For Helena, it stayed, burning quietly. Helena walked into the kitchen, her knees aching. The cold tile seeped through her slippers. She turned on the faucet and rinsed a mug she didn't need, watching the water spiral away. Her reflection warped in the stainless steel sink. Her cheek throbbed steadily. Laughter floated in from the living room as Daniel showed Miranda a video. It filled the house, thick and suffocating. Helena pressed her palm to her face, feeling the heat of a child's handprint. She stayed silent, not from calm, but because the words inside her were too heavy to speak. That night, the house felt vast and hollow. By morning, pale autumn light spilled across the kitchen floor, without warmth. Helena moved through her routine like a ghost. Coffee brewed. Towels folded. The house was awake but indifferent. Daniel spoke sharply into a work call. Miranda laughed brightly on a video chat. Leo sat at the island, eyes glued to his tablet, cereal untouched. Helena waited for a greeting. None came. She wiped the spotless counter, realizing the motion no longer felt useful. It felt like erasing herself. When Leo spilled milk, she handed him a napkin. "Thanks," he muttered without looking up. She clung to the word anyway. Daniel rushed through the kitchen, phone pressed to his ear. "Mom, pick up my dry cleaning later." "We're out of almond milk," he said, already halfway out the door. Miranda followed, perfume trailing behind her. "I have Pilates at 11 and a facial at 2, she said briskly. "You'll need to be here for Leo after school."
The door closed.
Silence rushed in, hollow and loud. Helena stood alone, surrounded by the hum of expensive appliances. When had this happened? When had she become invisible labor instead of family? It hadn't happened all at once. It was 1,000 small concessions. That evening, Helena sat on the back deck wrapped in a cardigan, city lights glowing beyond. Inside, Daniel and Miranda argued about a weekend trip, never mentioning that Leo would be left with her. Daniel appeared at the door. "Have you seen my gray sweater?" he asked impatiently. "I pressed it this morning," Helena replied softly. "It's in your closet." He sighed. "Just find it." Miranda rolled her eyes. "She forgets things." They spoke as if she wasn't there. Helena found the sweater exactly where she said. Daniel thanked her without apology. Sitting alone again, Helena realized it wasn't about the sweater or the slap. It was about being unseen for years and teaching them that was acceptable. The days blurred. Helena observed more closely. Daniel dropped his keys for her to pick up. Miranda curated her online life, barely speaking to her. Leo absorbed it all. One afternoon, Helena overheard Miranda on the phone. "It's practically free living here," she laughed. "Daniel's mom handles everything." The words hit harder than the slap. That night, Helena sat beneath the maple tree her late husband, Thomas, had planted decades earlier. "What happened to our home?" she whispered. Memories came easily after that. Thomas's sudden death. Daniel at 12, shaking in her arms. The second job. The sacrifices. College tuition saved dollar by dollar. She remembered believing love was enough. Sitting at the kitchen table, Helena realized love without boundaries becomes exploitation. She opened an old photo album. Daniel's proud smile at 13. Graduation day. Somewhere along the way, respect had faded. The morning light was gray when Helena stood, rinsed her cup, and felt something stir inside her. The slap had broken her silence, but it had also awakened her dignity. That night, Helena opened her laptop in Daniel's study. Years earlier, he had insisted on streamlining her finances. Trusting him, she rarely checked. Now she logged in. Her breath caught. Tuition payments. Country club fees. Camps. Thousands each month, her money. Thomas's life insurance. The sale of her condo. Her hands shook with cold clarity. She canceled everything. Changed passwords. Set alerts. The next payment would not go through. For the first time, her hands were steady. She wrote a list. Lawyer. New bank. Housing. And one more thing. Say yes to Samuel. A week passed. Helena accepted an invitation to a book club. When Miranda objected, Helena said calmly, "I have plans." That night, she dressed carefully and left frozen lasagna instructions behind. The book club reminded her who she was. Eleanor, not servant, not background. When she returned, the house was chaos. "Did you have fun?" Miranda asked sharply. "I did," Helena replied. "Good night." Color had returned to her face. This was only the beginning. The letter arrived from Leo's private school. Helena didn't touch it. Miranda opened it later. Panic followed. Daniel confronted her. Calmly, Helena told the truth. "I canceled it." Silence fell. Accusations flew. Helena stood firm. "You used my money without consent. That is theft." Miranda shouted. Daniel faltered. Helena laid it all out. The appraisal. The plan to move her out. "This ends now," she said. The money was gone. Responsibility returned to them. The house grew tense. Miranda stopped speaking to her. Daniel avoided her. Leo was confused, withdrawn. One afternoon, he asked softly, "Is it my fault?" Helena knelt.
No, sweetheart.
"But what you did was wrong, and now we're fixing bigger problems." He hugged her, whispering apology. Helena forgave him. Daniel watched silently. Change followed. The house sold. Debts paid. Helena bought a small Beacon Hill apartment with window boxes full of flowers. Miranda got a job. Daniel rebuilt his life honestly. Leo thrived. One afternoon, Samuel rang her bell with coffee. They talked, peacefully. Helena smiled. That slap had not ended her life. It had begun it. Her garden was smaller now, but it was hers. Sleep came only in fragments. Just before dawn, Helena made herself tea and stood at the kitchen window watching the sky slowly lighten. Something inside her felt different, fractured, but awake. Later that day, while Daniel was at work and Miranda was out, Helena wandered into Daniel's study. Years earlier, he had insisted on managing her finances. "It's easier this way, Mom," he had said. "You shouldn't have to worry." She had believed him. Now, with a steady breath, she opened her laptop and logged into her bank account. The numbers appeared on the screen. Helena scrolled once. Then again. Her heart began to pound. Tuition payments, club memberships, summer camps, all withdrawn automatically. All from her savings. "No," she whispered. She did the math slowly, carefully. The total made her lightheaded. This was Thomas's life insurance. The money from the home she had sold for them. Her future. Tears did not come. What rose instead was cold clarity. Helena picked up her phone and called the bank. Her voice was calm, almost detached. "I need to cancel all recurring payments immediately," she said. The operator hesitated. "These are long-standing transfers, ma'am." "I understand," Helena replied. "Cancel them anyway." She changed passwords, set alerts, locked down access. When the call ended, Helena sat very still. The next school payment would fail. She knew what that meant. Panic. Confrontation. Anger. Strangely, she felt no fear. She opened a notebook and began to write. A lawyer. A new bank. Housing options. And then one more line appeared without effort. Start saying yes to yourself. When Helena closed the notebook, she felt lighter than she had in years. A week passed. Helena woke each morning with a growing sense of resolve. One crisp morning, she sat on the back deck with her coffee. "Good morning, Helena," called Samuel, her neighbor, from across the fence. "Book club tonight. Are you coming?" She surprised herself by smiling.
"Yes," she said.
"I am." Later that morning, Miranda frowned when Helena mentioned it. "But you're watching Leo," she said. "I won't be tonight," Helena replied gently. "You'll need to make other arrangements." Miranda stared. "Are you feeling okay?" Helena cracked an egg into a bowl. "I'm fine," she said. "I'm just making plans." The words felt powerful.
Real.
That evening, Helena dressed carefully in a blue dress she hadn't worn in years. "Where are you going?" Miranda asked sharply. "Out," Helena said. "There's lasagna in the freezer." She left before another word could follow. At the book club, Helena spoke freely. She laughed. She listened. No one interrupted her. No one dismissed her. When she returned home, the kitchen was a mess. "We ordered pizza," Daniel said defensively. "I had a lovely evening," Helena replied. "Good night." In her room, she studied her reflection. Color had returned to her face. She barely recognized the woman staring back, and she liked her. The envelope arrived 2 days later. Miranda opened it. The panic was immediate. "Daniel," she shouted. Moments later, Daniel stood before Helena, pale and shaken. "The school payment didn't go through," he said. Helena removed her gardening gloves slowly. "I canceled it," she said. "You what?" Miranda gasped. "I canceled it," Helena repeated. "You've been using my money without permission." Daniel stammered. Miranda shouted. Helena did not raise her voice. "This ends now," she said. "Your son is your responsibility." The silence afterward was heavy and complete. The house changed overnight. Miranda withdrew. Daniel avoided eye contact. Leo became quiet and uncertain. One afternoon, he approached Helena in the garden. "Is everyone mad because of me?" he asked. Helena knelt beside him. "No," she said softly. "But hitting is wrong, and grown-ups made mistakes too." Leo's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry, Grandma." Helena hugged him. "I forgive you." Daniel watched from the window, but said nothing. Within days, Leo was enrolled in public school. The house went up for sale soon after. Miranda cried. Daniel aged visibly. When the house sold quickly, Helena felt relief, not sadness. She moved into a small Beacon Hill apartment with flowers in the window. Miranda took a job. Daniel found honest work. Life became simpler and real. One afternoon, Samuel rang Helena's bell with coffee in hand. They sat by the window, talking quietly. Helena looked around her small, peaceful home and smiled. That slap had not destroyed her life. It had awakened it.
Few
days later, Daniel approached Helena on the deck. He looked exhausted, his shoulders slumped. "Mom," he said, clearing his throat, "can we talk?" Helena nodded. They sat facing the fading afternoon light. "I made a reservation at that Italian place in the North End," Daniel said. "Just us." Helena studied him for a moment before answering. "All right," she said. The restaurant smelled of garlic and old memories. They sat in silence until Daniel finally spoke. "I'm in trouble," he admitted. "The business has been failing for years. I kept borrowing from you, telling myself I'd fix it." Helena listened without interruption. When he finished, she said quietly, "You used my trust as a safety net." Daniel's voice shook. "I didn't know how to stop. Miranda's expectations are friends. I felt trapped." Helena folded her hands. "So you decided I was expendable," she said. Daniel flinched. "No," he whispered. "I just didn't think." Helena met his eyes. "That is the problem, Daniel. You stopped seeing me as a person." Tears finally slipped down his face. "I'm sorry," he said. "I don't know if I can forgive you," Helena replied honestly. "But I will not allow this to continue." Daniel nodded slowly. "What happens now?" he asked. "We sell the house," Helena said firmly. Daniel looked startled. "Mom, it's our home." Helena shook her head. "It was built with my sacrifice and maintained with my labor. It holds too much damage." After a long pause, Daniel nodded. "Okay," he said quietly. "We'll sell." The decision seemed to deflate him, but it also brought relief. For the first time, the truth was no longer hidden. There would be no more pretending. The house sold quickly. After debts were paid and the business dissolved, the numbers finally settled. Helena took what was rightfully hers. She moved into a small apartment in Beacon Hill, bright and simple, with a window box overlooking the street. She filled it with flowers. Daniel and Miranda rented a modest townhouse closer to the city. Miranda found work as an administrative assistant. She complained often, but Helena noticed something new: restraint, respect, tentative but real. Leo adjusted faster than anyone expected. His public school was lively and diverse. He made friends. He laughed more. He called Helena every Tuesday just to talk. "Guess what I learned today?" he would ask eagerly. Helena listened with genuine joy. Their relationship softened into something healthier, built on kindness instead of obligation. Daniel found steady work in logistics. He was no longer admired or impressive, but he was honest. When he visited Helena, he asked before expecting. "Is this a good time?" he would say. Helena always noticed. Miranda, though still distant, no longer dismissed her. The power imbalance had shifted, and everyone felt it. One cool afternoon, Helena was planting spring bulbs when the doorbell rang. Samuel stood there holding 2 cups of coffee. "Thought you might like company," he said with a warm smile. Helena laughed softly. "I was hoping you'd say that." They sat by the window, talking about books, about life, about nothing urgent at all. It felt peaceful. Earned. Later that evening, Helena stood alone in her apartment, looking out at the city lights. She thought about that sharp sound, the slap that had once filled her with shame. Now it felt distant. Necessary. It had been the moment her silence ended. Helena understood something now that had taken her decades to learn. Patience without boundaries becomes erasure. Love without respect becomes control. She had mistaken endurance for virtue and silence for grace. No longer. Her life was smaller now, quieter, but it was hers. Her garden was modest, carefully tended, free of weeds that did not belong. Helena smiled as she closed the window. Dignity, she knew, was not something you wait for. It is something you claim and defend every single day.